Hours before Putin's expected engagement with a top Iranian channel, Russia has sent Trump a sharp message by declaring that threats, ultimatums, and sanctions simply do not work on Iran. Moscow is also openly mocking what it sees as the failure of the US war and sanctions playbook, arguing that Washington tried to negotiate from strength and still failed to bend Tehran. Putin's personal involvement with Iran's leadership circle is already fueling speculation that Russia may want a deeper hand in shaping the conflict's outcome.
We have all the cards. We're not going to spend 15 hours in airplanes all the time going back and forth to be giving a document that was not good enough. I'll deal with whoever runs the show. They don't know. They are fighting with each other. There's tremendous infighting.
A senior Russian envoy on April 26 threw fresh diplomatic weight behind Iran just before Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi's Moscow visit, sharpening Russia's public challenge to the Trump administration's pressure campaign. Russia's permanent representative to international organizations in Vienna, Mikhail Ulyanov, openly slammed US policy, saying Washington's long-running approach toward Iran had run into a wall. Ulyanov argued that the US policy of negotiating from a position of strength had failed in the Iran case, and that the strategy no longer looked sustainable even as Washington kept trying to project leverage. He added that military threats and what he called illegal sanctions had also failed against Iran, making the broader American pressure model look increasingly ineffective from Moscow's point of view. Mikhail Ulyanov said, and I quote, "The US is accustomed to conduct negotiations from the position of strength, threatening to use military force or tighten sanctions. It is obvious that this scheme doesn't work with Iran. The best way ahead for the US under the current circumstances is to drop all those elements of its position which look like blackmailing, ultimatums, and deadlines." Unquote. Russia's vocal support came just as it prepared to host Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, giving the visit added symbolic weight at a moment when Tehran's diplomacy with Washington had stalled. Araghchi arrived in Russia on April 27 at the head of a diplomatic delegation, with Iranian and international reports saying he was expected to hold talks with senior Russian officials and President Vladimir Putin. His Russia trip followed a short but closely watched visit to Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, where Iran had briefly explored indirect diplomacy before the process broke down. Earlier, the Iran-US talks track had effectively collapsed after Araghchi left Pakistan before US envoys arrived, underlining how quickly the mediation effort had unraveled. In response, President Donald Trump cancelled the planned visit of US negotiators, turning what had been framed as a possible opening into another failed diplomatic episode. Araghchi had already ruled out a second round of talks, blaming the continued US naval blockade and signaling that Tehran would not treat coercion and diplomacy as part of the same package.
You probably heard that we canceled the trip. We have all the cards. We're not going to spend 15 hours in airplanes all the time going back and forth to be giving a document that was not good enough. And so we'll deal by telephone, and they can call us anytime they want. Again, we have all the cards. They have no military left, practically. They have no leaders left. We don't know who the leaders are. Nobody knows who the leaders are. I don't think they know who the leaders are, very importantly. So you saw that. And any other questions?
Yes, sir. What have you heard from Pakistan? The Iran's foreign minister was in Pakistan yesterday night.
I think Pakistan is terrific. I think the field marshal is fantastic. I think the prime minister of Pakistan is great. And, you know, they'd like to see something happen, but we're not going to be traveling 15, 16 hours to have a meeting with people that nobody ever heard of.
What changed to make you make that decision?
Too much travel. When they say the meeting's scheduled for Tuesday, I said, Tuesday, that's a long time from now. But when you get right down to it, it's a lot of traveling. No, we don't want to do that.
At what point do you send Witkoff and Kushner and send Vice President Vance in? What point are you going to be ready?
They're all very competent, all three. Those are three. Good, but they weren't meeting with the leader of the country. They were meeting with other people. And I said, we're just not going to do it. Too much traveling, takes too long, too expensive. I'm a very cost-conscious person.
Mr. President, you said this week that you're not a fan of prediction markets and that they're turning the country into a casino. But at the same time,
I'm not. Did you say I'm not?
That you're not a fan of prediction markets.
Well, I don't know. I know some people that are very smart. They like it. They disagree, but they like it. But what would you like to know? Who are you with?
I'm with Decrypt, a crypto-focused publication, and we also have a prediction market. And your administration is aggressively pushing to legalize these markets, and I was wondering if you potentially wanted to reconsider that policy.
A lot of other countries are doing it, and when the other countries do it, we get left out in the cold if we don't do it. So, but I know people that are in the prediction market business, and they're pretty.
On the Fed, sir?
Crypto, what made you decide to go and attend this Mean Point conference today?
It's a big industry, and we want to beat China at the industry. We're leading with crypto. We're leading with AI. And I really feel I have an obligation from this. As a president, I have to be able to make sure that all of our industries do well. Crypto is a big industry. It's actually become somewhat mainstream. The banks have it. People have it. And I think as the leader of the country, we want to lead in AI. And we're leading China by a lot in AI. And we're also leading in crypto.
Do you agree with the decision by Janine Pirro to drop the investigation into Jerome Powell?
Well, I want to find out. It's not dropped. They're looking into the whole thing about.
Refer to the IG.
What I want to look at, with the IG. What I want to look at is how can a building that I could have done for $25 million cost $4 billion? That's a big thing, and he was in charge. So we'll get to the bottom of it. Yeah, I think Janine is fantastic. And she worked with other people on that. I tell you, I want to find out. I have an obligation to find out. This was done during Biden, but I have an obligation to find out I would have done that building for $25 million, had money left over, and it would have been open a long time ago.
Did you or your people ask her to drop it?
Because for the country, look, we have a railroad under construction in California. That's the worst thing I've ever seen under Gavin Newsom. And I want to find out why that one is costing 20 times what it was projected to cost. Likewise, the Fed building is a small. I built a hotel in Washington. It's a Waldorf Astoria. I built it for $201 million. And I believe it's bigger than the Fed building. And you have bathrooms, you have a lot of, it's much tougher, much more expensive to build a hotel than an office. I want to find out how can a building of that size cost for whatever it's going to be. Nobody knows, by the way, what it's going to be. Kevin is going to be fantastic. Kevin Walsh. He may never get to be in that building.
Is it smooth sailing for him now? Will Tillis drop his block?
I would imagine it's smooth, but whether it is or not, somebody has to find out why that building that should have cost $25 million is costing billions of dollars.
Sure, what else?
And you know why they have to find it out? For other buildings, because that's not the only one. I think that's the most egregious example.
What else caused you?
I'll deal with whoever's running the show. I'll deal with whoever runs the show. They don't know. They are fighting with each other. There's tremendous infighting. They're probably fighting for leadership. In many cases, I think they're fighting not to be the leader because we knocked out 2 levels of leaders. But I'll deal with whoever we have to. But there's no reason to wait 2 days, have people traveling for 16, 17 hours. And we're not doing it that way. We'll do it when they want. They can call me. We have all the cards. We've won everything. We have all the cards.
Yesterday you said to Reuters that we're dealing with who is in charge now. What changed from yesterday to today?
Nothing. It's just that they gave us a paper that should have been better. And interestingly, immediately when I canceled it, within 10 minutes we got a new paper that was much better.
What was on that paper, sir? What was? Can you explain?
We talked about they will not have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. Look, that whole deal is not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple.
Did they offer like 20 years on...
Will you continue the ceasefire?
Haven't even thought about it.
Did they offer anything in return to 20 years of suspending enriched uranium?
They offered a lot.
What did they offer?
They offered a lot, but not enough. Thank you.